I appreciate you giving us some of your time tonight, Lila, because as you know, as you know better than anyone, you're quite busy right now. Congratulations on the birth of your newborn.
Oh, thank you. No problem. He's making life easier than it's not much of a difference than it was before his arrival. Put it that way.
Ah, good, good. Well, it's one more thing that adds to your impressive resume of things you're accomplishing. A blogger, a journalist, a mother now. This is why I wanted to talk to you because I need someone with some common sense, some intelligence, and hopefully some journalistic integrity because I've got a dilemma on my hand here, Laila, and I could use your advice.
Mm-hmm.
You are aware of the situation I'm experiencing right now with Mr. Tim Felger and the fact that basically he acted like an ass in the Canada Day parade. And I basically said, I'm going to take a time out from Tim and I'm not going to deal with him any longer. And I thought that
I'm
was.
surprised it took you as long as it did.
Well, I've always prided myself on my tolerance and my patience. And to be fair to Tim, some of the things he says do warrant further investigation. Unfortunately, an equal number of things that he says are just ridiculous.
Nonsense.
And you're aware of that because he's come to your site.
Oh yeah. Tim's a frequent visitor. Actually, he was on again this morning. I see his IP address shows up frequently.
What's he saying on your website?
Well, he's lurking now. I called him a lurker. I said, didn't your mother ever tell you it's not polite to lurk on other people's websites? And he's not going on about prohibition. Well, he took a break from that yesterday and was commenting on my blog about being an older woman now because my birthday's coming up. But today he took the time to comment again on, trying to convert me to prohibition. And now he thinks I have ulterior motives. Because as a mother of four who's married and with a career, et cetera, how can I possibly have time to maintain a website? So it's come out in different posts of his that, maybe the RCMP are paying me to disseminate propaganda or the government is paying me to disseminate propaganda. I'm like, oh, God, you know what? You call me a propaganda whore? I love it, I've made it, finally. I'm a propaganda whore.
Laila, I apologize because the only reason that Tim Felger ever showed up on your site was because of me and the fact that I spoke with you and I put your website on your link to your website on my website and he found it and as a result started pestering you as well. I'm sorry, I'm responsible.
Oh no, please. I think anybody who has a public website attracts your fair share of wackos or weirdos or nutbars or Tim Felgers. So, I mean, it's happened before. I've actually had one fellow that I had lawyers on because he started up another web page calling me a Nazi and an anti-Semite and everything just because I said that I supported pro-choice. Somehow that made me a Nazi and a white supremacist. Don't know how that actually happened, that sequence of thought, but Tim is nothing. He's mild compared to some of the people I've seen. And he's kind of funny. One of my readers who's on frequently actually commented that if it weren't for the Tim Felgers of this world, you wouldn't be able to appreciate the normality of the rest of our lives.
That's a good quote, actually, and very true.
It's so true.
How familiar are you with what he did at the Canada Day parade in Abbotsford?
I read your little editorial about it,
okay.
And very well written, very concise, and I've had a few readers who have emailed me privately. A lot of people seem to really feel more free to vent their opinions and stuff privately rather than leaving commentaries, especially when it covers something like this because they don't even really want to get into it with him. And he will get into it with anybody, whether it's just another person on my website or it's me. I mean, it doesn't matter. And, same thing, that activity, that stunt, I think that you can call it, that he did in the Canada parade, lumps him in with people like David Cunningham of the Anti-Poverty Committee. It lumps him in with that radical group of people who may have a good cause and may have, Anti-Poverty Committee, they're against homelessness. That's great, They're super. Get rid of homelessness. I agree with it. But when you start doing things like hacking people's offices and creating anarchy, you lose all credibility for any sort of cause or intelligent comment you may have inside of you.
That's pretty much what I said, and I tend to agree with you that I think Tim just basically sold out a lot of his credibility. And in a conversation I had with him over a course of 3 hours, he basically said to me, and this is a direct quote, that he was past having an open mind on some of these issues. And it just struck me how hypocritical that was, of him accusing people like you, me, and city councilors of being hateful and intolerant because we may not agree with him. But at the same time, he wasn't willing to have an open mind on anything, and himself had become kind of hateful and intolerant.
Well, and you have to question his own motives for everything he speaks of. You know, he talks about crime. He talks about, you know, like we've talked about, he said abolishing drug prohibition is the way to cure domestic violence. I'm like, you know what? Not in a million years. I mean, give me a break. I don't even know where he makes the connection. And he tries to, well, look at this survey and look at this study. And most of them are American. There's a couple that are Canadian. He quotes the American drug war as a model and, you know, all these different things. And it's just, like, it's really incoherent and it's rambling. And it really doesn't come down to hard science about what works. And the truth is that, you know, legalizing all drugs is not going to work. If he takes over the city of Abbotsford as mayor and he says, okay, RCMP, you know, or Abbotsford Police, and you're not going to arrest anybody for drug crimes. No drug possession charges, no usage charges, no trafficking, no nothing, no grow-ups. You know, where does his motive come from? Well, look what he does. Look what he's done in his life. Of course he wants to abolish drug prohibition. Why not, you know?
A valid point. Okay, so I made my point to Tim. A reader that follows my blog a lot, quite often, his name is James Breckenridge. He's one of my most loyal readers, a very smart, very intelligent man, has his own blog. Basically sent me a letter this week saying that I had what I was doing now, as much as it pained him to say it, I was denying Tim his right to free speech if I did not associate with him as part of my website. And
yes.
well, that's what I thought. But what do you think?
Free speech is not. I mean, free speech, the term itself, is a misnomer in Canada and in anywhere really. I mean, it's just a gradient of what kind of limits there are set upon us. You know, look at the example of Rafe Mayer. I mean, he gets sued. You know, Rafe Mayer has been sued how many times? He knows what he can say. He knows what he can't say. And the ruling just came down recently on a long-standing legal battle that he took to the ultimate. The Supreme Court ruled in his favor because I believe what was her name, Kim Anderson, you know, the whole Nazi racist bigot thing. And they for the first time, the Supreme Court ruled, you know, I think it was the first time in 30 years, they brought in the definition of fair comment. Sorry, you're kind of cutting in and out.
That's okay. I can hear you, so that's great.
Okay, I'm getting a back echo here a little bit. Just sort of, it's almost like we're a little non sequitur, but so it makes it a little odd on my end, trying to listen to you at times. But I mean, that said it right there. And, you know, there are limits to what you can and what you can't say. And, you know, it depends on where you're going, even what you can and what you can't say. You know, Rafe Mayer, the reason why they took after Rafe Mayer, I believe, is one, he's a lawyer. You know, he knows what he can and can't say more than anybody else. And, you know, they took after him because, like, with the Can West suit that he's got going on right now, where he targeted the cartoonists. He said, you know, Can West got rid of them, you know, because they didn't toe the line, you know, whatever his comments were. And they said, you know, it was malicious. And some people are saying, you know, there was a little bit of malice there, and it wasn't, you know, he should have known more than anybody what he could and couldn't say. With Tim, I mean, he can go on. Free speech, yeah, sure, you can say whatever you want. But that doesn't mean that private individuals like yourself or myself, that he can come on and just ramble on and do whatever. I mean, he can, right. But there's no law in the world that says I have to allow him to annoy all of my readers for weeks on end.
Right.
You know, I mean, who says? When you can come to the table with an intelligent discussion and bring something valid, and on my website in particular, we've had long-standing debates about heated topics, you know, Sikh religion, female infanticide. You know, we cover the gamut of topics, and there's nothing that really I shy away from.
No.
But that doesn't mean if some kook comes into the fold and starts spouting off something, you know, discriminatory or racist or blatantly, you know, crass or vulgar, that I'm going to just allow that. I mean, everybody has standards of what you will and what you won't allow on your site. So if you've had enough of Tim and his antics and he's not bringing anything valid anymore, why not? Deep Six the guy. You know, what good is coming out of it? He just talks in circles.